maybe, it'd be really cool. Okay, you ready to go?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, also unfortunate. All right, let's go. Let's do this. I'm gonna maybe speed it up. We'll see, because Neil talks like negative 50 miles per hour. So
it's really not every day that I have someone as influential as you on my channel. So it really.
Although I care about anytime when I'm invited to a podcast, the typical invitation reads, "Well, this is my downloads, and this is other famous people we've had, so therefore you should want to do this." And I don't give a rat's ass about any of that. I just care that your heart's in the right place. You have a
someone told me we could skip to 8 minutes. So we'll see how relevant this is to the debate. And I guess
is this like an actual debate between them?
Apparently, it says Neil deGrasse Tyson debates vegan activists. So I don't know.
authentic mission statement, and you're trying to do good in the world. And so you are well above that threshold, in spite of the internet, in spite of the
what?
What did you call it? The we got to talk, whatever.
Oh, the clickbait.
Yeah. In spite of the clickbait, that's fine. But it is what it is.
Yeah, he's probably seen mine, because for a while my video was the first thing on the search when you typed in Neil deGrasse Tyson veganism. So I wonder if you've seen my thing, because and I even tested it on like other browsers on incognito, and it was still the first result. So
what's
So yeah.
what's the magnitude of this dude's channel? Is it like huge?
He has 19K subs, so it's actually kind of crazy that he got him.
Wow, that is crazy that he got him on his channel.
Yeah, it makes me think I should email him.
Which means that it's not entirely impossible for you to get him on there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've shit on him a lot. Probably more than Jack.
Yeah, I'm ready for you.
Yes.
I'm going to do 1.25 because he's very slow.
So I think it would be good to start talking about your new book. You included a chapter on the topic of animal ethics, which is what interests me mostly.
Of course, I didn't call it that, because that implies that I'm passing judgment for you on how you should think about a subject. But nowhere in the book am I giving you an opinion, because I don't care if you have my opinion. It's my opinion. You can have your own opinion. But if you have an opinion, as a scientist, it's incumbent upon...
Oh, Nutrivore is... Yeah, he can come in this call if he wants.
He's watching our reaction on his stream.
That's funny.
That's funny.
It's
a stream of a stream.
By the way, Nick, if you're watching, I know I normally stream on Wednesdays, and now it's Monday, but that's because I can't stream this week at all besides today. So you're free to take the Wednesday day.
And the journey has just begun.
Anyway.
Me to ask you, how well thought out is your opinion? So that chapter is simply titled Meatarians and Vegetarians, okay? Just to get the symmetry of the word form. Meatarian is, of course, a less familiar form of just meat eater. But all I do is I talk about meat eaters and vegetarians, and whether there are inconsistencies in their thinking as they make strong decisions about their own lives or about the lives of others. Because there are whole societies that are trying to change your behavior based on what they are sure is the right thing to do. So I will never put myself in that position, because I don't care. I mean, I care, but not in a way to start a movement to change people. I will never tell people what to do. And nowhere in that book do I tell people what to do.
You'll never tell a person to not murder a child. Very thoughtful stuff.
I also want to say, he mentioned something about gauging the consistencies of the views. I just take consistency to be the bare minimum to even have a view. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It seams that people can kind of...
Wait, it might feel that way? This is what I was saying earlier.
Why is he interrupting already? Okay, whatever.
Objective truth. And wait, he's telling me this. Well, I've learned from Twitter, you can't put an opinion out because people will attack it.
Absolutely.
I'm older than you. I remember when opinions were, oh, that's your opinion? Well, that's interesting. Here's my opinion. Okay, now let's go to the pub, right? That's how opinions used to unfold. Now it's you express an opinion, and whoever does not share that opinion attacks it because it does not match their opinion.
I feel like
And that is
just like that's just been present like all throughout history. So I don't think that's ever like changed. Maybe like the magnitude in which the number of people like kind of do that has changed because there's just more people on our planet right now. But it's always been historically that if you don't share like an opinion that someone else has, that, like there's going to be people that are going to attack it.
Yeah, you know, we should. Well, I was gonna say too. Also, like the internet, like it's easier to do these things just by virtue of it being at your fingertips. You know, people all across the world. You know, I don't know if like the degree to which it's happened has gone up.
Yeah, it's possible.
Probably. I mean, yeah, just because it's easier to do, but I don't know. By the way, Ruxter, do you want to just to mimic this conversation? Do you want to interrupt each other like every time we start talking?
To mimic it?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
'Cause that's how you go about with a sense of propriety, right?
Yes. Totally.
is a world that I still don't understand how we landed there. I mean, of course, social media fed it. Of course, it did that.
Yeah.
But the fact that you thought it was on animal ethics means you put your own lens on that chapter because nowhere in there does it talk about ethics at all. It references that some people think about it from an ethical point of view, but that is not how.
Yeah.
I love the amount of times he stops himself. It doesn't mention about ethics. I mean, like what it does is it references like ethics in this kind of way, but like it's just like
it doesn't reference animal ethics. It references people thinking about animal ethics. Okay.
I'm addressing those two topics.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to say that you're kind of making normative claims of how we ought to behave, but I guess I would still see it as kind of, you describe some of the treatment of animals, you kind of describe what sentient plants might think, like about like our treatment of plants. I feel like you're entering the realm of ethics, even if you're not telling people how they ought to behave. And I guess
wait, did he talk about plant sentience in his book?
No, I think this was I didn't read his book. I just know he went on a little tour of like various podcasts talking about sections of the book, and he would always bring up, letting a mouse back into the wild when they get into your house. He thought that was like inconsistent with vegan values because in the wild it's like not as safe for them as your house. So you kind of implied that it's a moral obligation of sorts, or at least you need to, in order to be consistent, you need to bring in all mice that come into your house. And another one was building a house with wood might be inconsistent with it because of the habitat or something. It's been like a year since I've ventured into Neil's very deep mind, but yeah, that's what I remember.
Okay.
Someone said it didn't realize it was sped up until the white guy started talking. You mean Jack? Yeah.
When you're trying to stay in a descriptive, I suppose you found out through Twitter and social media that people can often get confused by that and think you're coming down on how we should behave. And there was a tweet you made where you kind of got a bit of flack. You address it in the book. I think the tweet was, "A cow is a biological machine invented by humans to turn grass into steak." And people kind of saw that as either condoning what was happening to cows or condemning it, which wasn't the point you were making, right?
Yeah, I just thought people would say, well, that's interesting. First, that we invented cows. Maybe they do a little homework on that. And what else? Of course, we also use them for milk.
Did we invent cows? What is that? What I'm hearing? Sorry.
Yeah, I think he's conflating artificially selecting for a specific breed of cow with inventing cows. I don't know if we invented cows. Yeah.
Primary sources of protein.
Sorry, I was trying to interrupt you.
And so I just said that. And some people said, wow, I never thought about it that way. Oh my gosh, maybe I'll eat less cows, or other, or people. And so, I think the most vocal, visible person who commented was the musician Moby, who said, how dare you make light of this, the misery of cows and that it's causing global warming and human health. And he just went, oh, it was like, wow. So there's somebody who has an agenda.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, we invented cows.
Yeah, but it's like,
everyone knows.
But like, the reason why that dude is going off the way he is, right, is because there's like this weird implication that like, when you say, like, the cow is like some sort of like human made mechanism to like get like to turn like plants into meat or like whatever however you phrased it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost it's like the implication there. I can kind of see where that guy's coming from. It's just like Neil's like giving some type of justification for how we treat animals, or like it's like you're almost ascribing this sort of like intentionality, right? And they're saying that like these cows they serve some gold, right?
It's also weird because he was describing earlier like, oh, like, you know, nowadays you can't just put an opinion out there, you'll get attacked. And it's like, bro, you literally just said like a cow is a biological machine designed to create steak. Like,
yeah, you're making some like descriptive claim there.
Yeah.
What do you mean opinion?
And also there's like there could be like normative implications of like, oh, do you think that it's okay to kill them then because they are that, like if he's doing like the is-ought thing, like where like they are this, therefore, you know, I get to do this to them. Like he didn't say it explicitly, but like there's implications and like you can interpret it that way. It was just a very vague and weird tweet to make. So yeah,
he's a big animal rights, you know, vegan. Everyone knows that, and so he came to it assuming that I was somehow attacking him or his world or his lifestyle, when it's just information. Now, of course, it's tweetophile, right? So it's shortened. It's not a full conversation. But yeah, a biological machine, it was a machine. You put something on one end and something comes out the other end. That's a machine. So anyhow, so that was, it turned out I was fascinated to watch the bifurcation of people's reactions. I had a similar one, not related to this book, but this is the kind of insights I was getting on human behavior when, as an educator, I'm trying to communicate with you.
Is there any possibility you kind of...
Yeah, the best way to communicate what he wanted to say was definitely that tweet. Top tier communication skills. Go ahead.
Yeah, he kind of comes off as like a gaslighter.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna just say this outlandish thing that has like some pretty obvious implications, or maybe not obvious implications, but people can like people can be there could be some implications that people detect based on what he says, and then I'm gonna attack him based on that, right?
Right.
And say, what are you talking about? It's like all I just said was I just said a fact. That's it. Which, you know, like it kind of sounds like a gaslighter, bro. It's a little manipulative in such a way, if that's what his aim is. You know
and he his intentions are a bit ambiguous. Like the statement itself is very like, it's just bizarre. It's like, okay, so what are we doing with this information? You know what I mean? Like,
like what was the motivation behind that information, right? And I think most likely was that like he was trying to use this as like some type of justification for like the treatment of animals, right? Because instead of like appealing to like the animals' like emotions or sentience, what he did was he compared it to a machine. He said, "Hey, it's a machine," right? Yeah. And notice how like for our everyday objects like my PS5, my TV, like my laptop, these machines, like we don't have like emotional, or I should say, we don't have like moral assessments of those things. Like if I just throw my laptop down and no one else was hurt or whatever, I wouldn't say that was like a bad thing, right? I wouldn't say that's like or immoral thing, right? And so I think what he's trying to do is like trivialize the sort of like status of the cow to such that of a machine, so that you can be less empathetic towards it, or you can be like more what's the word? I guess to establish more of like a dissonance there. Yeah. If that makes any sense. And that's how I'm taking that.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that. Like, there's so many charitable interpretations you can give for it. It's just a very bizarre tweet.
Yeah.
Put the speculation to bed and kind of give your views on what you think about society's current treatment of farmed animals.
I'm a public figure, so my opinions carry vastly more weight than I want them to.
Yep.
Because if someone says, "How do you feel about this?" Watch. They say, and I feel this way. Then there's a headline: Tyson wants you to do XYZ elemental P. When that's not what I said. I have an opinion, but I don't have a goal to impart my opinions on others. But it comes across that way if someone asks me my opinion, and because I'm not part of movements. I don't march. I don't carry placards. I don't sign petitions. All of these are forces operating in the world to get one group's opinion to change the views of another group. I don't belong to any of these groups. That doesn't mean I don't have views that resonate with them. Certainly I do. It doesn't mean I don't have opinions. I do. And so you want to have an opinion, and then this is going to go up online because, oh, Tyson Gray's got an opinion, let me attack it. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm a scientist. I want you to have I want your opinion to be formed in such a way that you didn't miss any elements of it. Yep. Someone mentioned my analogy of mice in the basement. I'm happy to talk about anything in the book.
Let's talk about the sentient alien plants thought experiment, though.
Love to.
Yeah.
Love to. So I was imagining what would it be like. By the way, throughout the book, intermittently I throw in what an alien might think as they observe our ways and means. Okay. Oh, by the way, you went straight to the sentient alien, but I went there only after I made the point that a person who wants to protect mice in their basement, not kill them, and so you humanely trap them. And then what do you do typically? Well, you let them back out into the wild, all right? If you have mice in your basement, typically you live in a place where you don't have to walk very far to re-release them out into the wild, okay? So then you feel good about that because you don't want to harm or kill animals. You're probably a vegetarian. Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
He's also still conflating vegetarianism with veganism.
But consider that if you care about the life of the mouse, the best thing you can do for a mouse is to leave it in your basement. Because when you re-release it to the wild, the life expectancy of a mouse in the wild is between 9 and 18 months. Guaranteed to be eaten. They're tasty grubs for owls, hawks, foxes, other woodland predators that thrive in the wood. Leave it in your basement, it'll live up to 6 years. But you're not doing that. So your actions are not really in the best interest of the mouse. If you want to still trap the mouse and put it outside, I don't have a problem with that. But don't tell me this is good for the mouse. Because there's other things you could do for that mouse that are way better for it. So that's one point of have you really thought it through that I make there.
Yep.
And I'm not offering opinion. I'm just saying think this through. Another
what do you think about this, Danny?
I've talked about this before on the channel. I mean, like, obviously, there's some empirical claims there that I would want some substantiation for anyway. But also, I just don't take the view that it's like some sort of obligation to house every animal that comes into your house from the wild. Like, I don't take that to be like a rights violation to not, you know what I mean? I think killing them is right, but
Could be,
yeah, it could be. But the idea that I have to house them or something, I don't know. I don't take that view.
Yeah, also you also have to demonstrate that in fact that the mouse in question or the pest in question is going to live like a worse life out there in the wild than it is going to be like in the house or something. Because remember, like, we're agnostic as to what, like, how cruel, because we know it can be cruel in the wild, but like a lot of that stuff is also circumstantial, right? And you're only merely doing, like, so you have your own space, right? And you're just taking out the mouse and putting it in a different space, right? And prior to the mouse getting into your home, he was out in the wild, presumably. And then afterwards, putting the mice in, after getting inside your house, you're putting them back into the wild, right? All you're doing is sort of just like putting them back in the situation where it already was. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's essentially what you're doing. So anything that happens to it outside of that, like, it's not on you. Like,
yeah.
And so it's kind of weird to suggest that, like, and another thing is that you can care about mice, rodents, and all that stuff, to the extent that, like, you don't want to, like, harbor it inside your house, but you would release it into the wild instead of killing it, right? And that can also be consistent with our moral system.
Right. Yeah.
So caring about something like a mouse, even insects, whatever, it doesn't necessitate that you have to harbor it inside your house, so that's protected from the wild, right? All that's saying is that you care about it, it means that like you're not going to commit like some type of like rights violation against it, depending upon what your normative ethics are,
Mm-hmm.
and that yeah, and that like you're going to just remove it from your house to as best as you can, right?
Yeah.
Now there could be situations where you have to kill the thing in question, which is terrible because it affects your well-being or something like that, or something it's a detriment to like your living situation. Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then you might have to do that, unfortunately, right? But you caring about an animal doesn't necessitate that you have to care for it. It doesn't necessitate that you have to harbor it and protect it from like the dangers of like the
Of the
wild
world,
or
of the
nature.
whole world or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you all, you care for humans and stuff, but it doesn't mean like you're obligated to house every single human that's in a worse situation than they'd be in having lived in your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Same example is you're probably, unless you're in the Flintstones cartoon, you're probably living in a home made of wood. And a typical home, American homes are bigger than in Europe typically, but in America, a home would be made from the wood of about 50 trees. You can do the math on that. And wood goes into the floorboards and the what we call the 2x4s, which are that builds up the framing of the house and the structural members and the sidings. All of this is made of wood. Each of those trees might have lived 100 years. 100 years, but they're cut down. This is a tree which each day in the summer produces 15 times the mass of that mouse in breathable oxygen. You just cut it down to build your house, and you're fine with that. Oh, but you got to save the mouse. That'll now live for 18 months. So my question to you is, what do you think nature cares more about? The 1 ounce mouse?
I don't think nature cares about anything. Nature's not like Asian.
Yeah, it's a confusing question.
Or the 30-ton tree?
I would also say that's like he's like appealing to like how long the tree could stay there for, and this sort of like external value that the tree has, like it provides oxygen and such like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my only thing would be like, well, one, the tree isn't sentient, and also it's not very clear that me chopping down a tree, right, is going to have like an overall net negative utility, right, on the world, right?
Yeah.
It could be the case that like me chopping down a tree will prevent further organisms from living there, and then those organisms that live on that tree undergo a lot of like cruel acts against one another, right? And I just prevented like an infinite number of acts into the future, all because I've occupied this particular space. That's also possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because we're ambiguous on that, the moral status of building a tree also becomes ambiguous, right? Because those sort of factors are going to sort of determine whether or not what we did was right or wrong. And because we're ambiguous on that, you can't have a moral status right away.
There's other things too, like having a house. Presumably, there's going to be less like wild animal suffering in a home than in a wild piece of land. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, there's even that to consider in just building a house. So a lot of stuff's just in the air in terms of utility and what is going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of just talking as though it's clear cut, no pun intended, that this tree being cut is going to be a net negative.
Yeah, because it could also another thing I just thought of. Sorry, but you cutting down the tree could have like no impact on like the overall oxygen that's like available for everyone, right? Or it can have an impact. It's just negligible.
Yeah, or
right?
Insignificant. Yeah.
Right. It's so insignificant that it doesn't affect the quality of life for humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like he's implying that like there's less oxygen now because you cut down this tree, therefore it's bad. But it can be the case that like just so long as it doesn't go surpass a certain threshold, it's going to have no impact on humans.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's most likely the case that like it's probably not going to have that much effect on humans. Now, if you just go tear down in the entire like fucking Amazon rainforest or something, yeah, it's kind of fucked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But a single tree for like a single, for like a home or something like that, not so much.
Yeah. And I wonder how many trees are cut down to grow food for his biological machines that create.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing, dude.
Yeah.
That provides oxygen and is home for birds and squirrels and mushrooms and insects. Who do you think nature cares more about? And I leave it there. Just think about that. Okay, now that we're talking about plants, I say to myself, okay, imagine an alien.
So sorry, can I comment a few things on the mouse? Because I think I agree with what you're saying, and I think this is.
Oh, by the way, just a quick point. Because they're not opinions. It's not a matter of whether you agree. I'm just telling you what trees are, and I'm
so sorry.
So it's not an agree. I didn't.
I agree that we missed the. I agree that people who are trying to save the mouse are missing a bigger picture. Is what I'm saying.
So one of the things I think's cool about this example is that it highlights the romanticization and idealization we have with nature as well. I think we often see like nature as being this kind of rosy, wonderful place to live, when actually it's like very brutal for a lot of animals. And what I think is really important
brutal for plant
is
life
this.
Too. I mean, it's brutal for all life. Yes.
This thinking of the bigger picture and
brutal for plant life. Yeah, plants are fucking suffering over there, dude.
God.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shut here.
It's brutal for rocks, dude. Have you seen what rocks go through in nature?
Oh yeah, like dude, when I watch miners do their thing, like I just can't but hold this rage inside.
Yeah.
How dare they? How fucking dare they?
Awful, man, awful.
And the knock-on effects of our actions, and not just the direct effect that is in front of us. I think maybe I'm just trying to think about like kind of vegans, animal advocates listening to this, and one place where they are missing the point.
Oh shit! Whoops. Sorry.
You good, man?
I'm just trying to think about like kind of vegans, animal advocates listening to this, and one place where they might feel frustrated is that like they can say, okay, you're right. People who are trying to avoid directly harming the mouse are missing the point. But we should also, it seems maybe unfair not to mention the fact that the vast majority of people seem to be missing a more obvious moral atrocity, which is our treatment of farmed animals, chickens, pigs, and cows that we just kind of ignore.
Okay, hold on. I'm only talking about people who are saving my.
To talk about the cruelty of nature there. That's so he brought it up, but then like he could have used it as like he could have used it to like ambiguate the moral status of chopping down a tree, but he just left it there. He just left it as like nature can be cruel, because it almost seemed as if like he was going to say something that was that would counter what Neil just said, but then he kind of just agreed with Neil despite bringing that up, which is very like confusing a little bit.
Yeah, I would have challenged him a little bit on the empirics of the effects of the actions he was calling into like question for like a vegan's values or whatever.
It's in their basement. And now you're pivoting to some whole other conversation that I'm not having in this moment. In this moment, I'm only referencing the people who might still share all those other views, but a piece of that holistic behavior that they've brought upon themselves involves this mouse. And so it's a separate conversation about agri-farming, and all. That's a whole other conversation that we could talk about. So I do address it a little bit in the book in the same way, by the way. Right. And so, but yeah, if a vegan is listening to this and they're not actually further paying attention to this example and want to jump to another example, so that's a different way to have a conversation. So
I suppose
it's like a convoluted, just like almost like a ramble.
Well, it's like there could be the case that there are some interactions with animals whose moral status is more ambiguous than our other interactions with animals. And if some vegans want to focus on factory farming of animals, because in those cases it seems extremely obvious that there's like rights violations or there's something wrong going on, to then identify something like a mouse, right, where the moral status might be a little bit more ambiguous or something. He's saying that like, oh, they're trying to like divert to like a different example, when I would just say it's like, well, the thing that they care about, it seems like you're just talking about something that's like not comparable, right? Or there's going to be some symmetry breakers between the two examples that's not going to address the concern that vegans have.
Yeah,
right?
the issue is that I think Humane Hancock didn't addressed, like you said, the ambiguousness of the scenario. And obviously the one he is bringing up is much less ambiguous in terms of outcomes and whether there's a net negative outcome when you support it, right? But unfortunately, Jack kind of said like, yeah, I agree with you, and didn't really leave room for explaining how this other case of animal, we'll call it like animal exploitation or whatnot, whatever you want to call it, is much more clearly bad and less ambiguous in terms of the outcomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the point about the trees.
Oh shit! I'm gonna go back.
Different way to have a conversation. So
I suppose on the point about the trees,
mouse, then you can change the subject. Are we done with the mouse and the tree? Because it's that sequence from the mouse to the tree that got me to the sentient alien, okay, plant alien. Yeah. And so so do you want to still say something, or should I continue with the sentient plant alien?
Let's go to the sentient aliens.
By the way, in the United States, we invented a term for people who, when they hear an argument, rather than discuss the argument, they go to something else that's either worse or different. It's called whataboutism. Okay, so we talk about the mouse, and you say, okay, fine, but what about farm animals, right? It's called whataboutism.
But the thing is, he's doing that. It's like
he's doing the whataboutism.
Yeah, like they're talking about factory farming and all that stuff, and then he's like, yeah, but what about the mouse, right? That's like in this particular scenario, or like what about all the animals that's on the tree that you chop down for the house? Like he's doing that very thing.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of his motivation for writing these things, obviously because it's toward vegans and vegetarians, it's starting with the thing that we're all like actively opposing and trying to change, such as like animal farming, right? And animal experimentation, whatever. And he's doing the whataboutism shit in response to that in his book. That's kind of like the gist of what's going on, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and obviously, like, maybe Humane Hancock doesn't realize it, but like he is, when he brings up the more obvious case, like animal farming, he's bringing up the thing that led Neil to this whataboutism in the first place, which was farming and all that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's a little frustrating because it's, hey, like, yeah, there might be a different scenario or situation pertaining to how we interact with animals or our conduct with animals, right? That we can question, right? But it doesn't mean that like our answer to a separate question is gonna hinge or be tethered to our answer to the initial question. So if you go, what about this? What about that? Like, yeah, those might have the same treatment or different treatment because they're a different context, but it's going to be completely orthogonal to the initial thing that we want, unless you can show the symmetry there, right? Because from my understanding, if we're concerned with animal agriculture and how that's going on, right? Like, I don't think you can appeal to another circumstance that
isn't like analogous.
That's analogous because that's a very I don't know of another situation where like animals are being bred to like the billions like this and systematically murdered, right? Like, so it's just like you can say, what about this? What about that? Yeah, but it's like, dude, like this is like the main thing that we're focusing on, right? And we can probably derive a symmetry breaker between other contexts that he provides and this thing, right? To show that like you don't need to answer all these other questions to answer the initial question that we have initially, our main concern, which is with animal agriculture. So
yeah, it's very clear he's trying to imply that there's some sort of level of hypocrisy or a logical inconsistency in regard to what we primarily like fight against or our values.
Right.
When he brings up this mouse shit or the tree thing.
Yeah.
And that's not clear at all. It's like Neil's brain just thinks animals, okay, mice, animal, mice might have bad time if not kept in house after getting into house, therefore inconsistent for not keeping mice in house but also opposing animal farming. Like that's kind of what his mind is doing there, you know what I mean? And it's just like very, I don't know, it just seems like what's the word, missing the point, not understanding like what we're actually after, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just sounds like someone who just doesn't want to acknowledge like that something is bad, like because we could also acknowledge that whatever example that he wants to provide is also bad, right? It's not. It doesn't change the moral status of the initial thing in question. It's like, what about this? I'm like, yeah, those are bad too, but like, hello, we're like that's missing the point, so to speak. So
yeah, and we don't even know if it's bad, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Which completely shifts the conversation to something where you want to make some other point. So just it's something to be aware of when you're in a conversation.
So fucking patronizing, dude.
This whole whataboutism.
This whole whataboutism that I actually don't realize that I've done to the vegan movement in my book.
Have you ever heard the term? I don't know. It's kind of a fun. I think it has too many syllables, but it's still.
That's a little bit of that done in crew, eh?
Yeah.
We are with the sentient alien. So imagine an alien that is completely a plant. It's a plant, a sentient plant. Just imagine this. I wouldn't know what that would be like, but just part of a cosmic perspective is to just think about things differently from how you always have. So now we have a plant. By the way, on their home planet, there are no restaurants, there are no kitchens, there's no food production, there's no supply chain, there's none of that. They just lay out under the sun and they get all their nourishment. Okay? And so they can take long trips through space because they just lay out under the lamp. All right? And that because they photosynthesize. All right? This is how they get their energy. All right. And they heard that Earth, in the catalog, the tourist catalog, that Earth has a raging biodiversity. Okay? And they want to sort of look in on their plant brethren. And so then they arrive. And then they find humans. They won't really understand humans.
And then they find humans that are harvesting non-sentient plants, and they end up not really giving a shit because they're sentient and care about sentient plants. Next.
Humans are animals, right? And they're plants. So they won't think much. They'll just care about the plants.
Like, how would you guys feel if we found a planet of non-sentient humans? Okay. And like they were literally like they were humans, but they just didn't have brains or something. But they were alive and they were just laying there. Like they were just born, they just laid there. And, we had no reason to believe there was any sort of person in there, know, to any greater degree than a plant or a rock or whatever, or a bacteria. Like, do you think we would be horrified to know that there's a species that eats these non-sentient humans? Like, I wouldn't really care.
Yeah, there's nothing going on upstairs. If there's nobody home, then what's the issue?
Yeah, there might be like some emotional.
I might
response.
look optically like weird, right? Like, shit, that's weird.
But if you were to really ask me, like, what do you really think about this? Is it wrong? I'd be like, well, no. So.
And they'll see the tree, the giant sequoia, lives 1,000 years. They'll see all kinds of plant life. They'll be very impressed. But then they'll notice that there's a subset of humans who specifically target plants to eat. They'll be terrified by this. Okay?
How do they feel about the other subset of humans that not only target their plant brethren, but also target animals who
are also sentient too?
Yeah, who are sentient, who also consume their plant brethren, and it actually requires more of their plant brethren to create these animals than is required for you to just eat your plant brethren straightforwardly. I wonder how they feel about they probably feel worse about the carnists that are using more plants. But anyway,
you know what's funny about that? It's like, how do they feel about a particular? How do they feel that like there's a subset of those people that only particularly target the plants? And then my question would be, are those plants sentient?
Right.
Right? Because we would say the same thing. That's like if there was something that was eating humans, right, from like another planet, and you would go, well, are these humans sentient? Is like anyone home? Well, then it would just be like eating a rock. Then there's just nothing there. There's nothing. There's no experience. There's just nothing. It just looks optically weird, right? Because it's got blood, and bones, and all that shit. But like, ain't nobody upstairs, right? There's no experience that's being taking away. You're not taking away something's experience. It's just like a rock, right?
Also, I said this in my video on him a while ago, the fact that he's saying a sentient plant and not just saying plant says to me that he agrees that we don't really have a good reason to believe that plants on our planet are sentient. You know, if he thought plants were sentient, he probably wouldn't be making the distinction. He would just say plants, right? And assume such that they're sentient. So it seems that he also is aware that plants, you know, don't have a central nervous system, a working brain, or anything like that. So I think that's also interesting.
Because they're plants. They might get grabbed and stolen and eaten and corralled. And so and then they look more closely and they go to, we have there's Whole Foods in the UK. I don't know. This is what nature.
Someone said he never said sentient once. I'm pretty sure he said sentient plant. I don't know if you're trolling or what.
I think he might be saying that like the plants on Earth were sentient. That might be what he's talking about.
Okay.
A nature grocery store, and they'll see the produce aisle, and then they'll see that the foods that this subset of humans target, let's just broadly call them vegetarians, they seek out the reproductive organs of the plants, which are the nuts, the berries, the sprouts, the flowers. They're specifically extracted and consumed. This freaks them out even more. And then they look closer, and then they find.
Like, why would they be freaked out? Like,
I don't know.
He's that like, because if they're not sentient, again, if there's nobody home, like, then maybe it's just like a visceral reaction. Because it's like something. It's similar to us watching other humans get consumed that aren't sentient, and we would have like some sort of visceral reaction to that because it optically looks weird, but like nothing immoral is going on. So if that's the same reaction that's happening with these plants, right, then by parallel extension, then nothing immoral would be going on if the said plants weren't sentient, the ones that are being consumed, that is.
Right.
And if that's the case, then like you're wasting your time with this sort of thought experiment.
Agreed.
So
that this community further targets the baby versions of those plants. Baby carrots, baby mushrooms, baby spinach, baby artichokes. The list goes on and on. And they would just freak out. And they'd run back home and say, there's a terrifying life form that all they want to do is eat our babies, eat our spores, and they target us. And so if you haven't thought about it that way, I think that's interesting because as a vegetarian, typically you don't think.
I think, no, they're not targeting them because them are sentient plants. They're targeting the non-sentient plants in this thought experiment because you haven't specified whether or not the plants are sentient, right? You've specified that the plants are sentient from the other planet, right? But because you didn't specify like on our planet, right? And on our planet, we have no reason to think that they are sentient, right? Then that's going to be the distinction. They're the ones that are not being targeted. Then, I guarantee you, if we find out that plants are sentient, that's gonna change a lot, and to the degree of which they are sentient, that's going to change some things.
Yeah, and it's clear. Like from what I said before, I think he agrees that we don't have a good reason to believe they're sentient because he's calling these plants sentient from the outside.
Think anything of eating the sprouts. All the plant is trying to do is make a copy of itself. You're not saying, well, let the plant live some kind of life first, and then I'll eat it. All right. So a lot of the corresponding thinking that goes on with animal rights, broadly animal rights, or rather just animal treatment, I think is the more appropriate term for that sentence. Animal treatment is if they lead a life with a free range and then you eat them, that's better for the animal. So that way of thinking is not applied to plants because somebody has judged on Earth, that animal life has higher value than plant life. And they've adjusted their eating habits accordingly. So that alien example is just simply...
That's fucking crazy, right? It's almost like there's something that's true about the animals that's not true of the fucking plants. Call me crazy.
Yeah,
right?
It's almost like, sentient life matters more than life. Just bacteria and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And he's like, So all you've done is just describe the actual state of affairs. Good fucking job, right? Like, it's like someone just arbitrarily one day just did this, and that. It's like, okay, and all right.
This group of people also decided that humans are more valuable than rocks. And that's just because they think that.
Notice that like we recognize that eating things like salt, right? Like consuming salt, and consuming animals, right? We've changed our eating patterns because we've recognized that there is like some kind of difference between like rocks and other animals and shit, right? And someone just someday just did that randomly or arbitrarily or whatever he just said. They just decided one day, right? It's like with that logic, it's like that's going to be true of like probably all of our eating habits. And then what's the implication there that everything's up to grabs once we've identified that fact of the universe or that fact of our world? Like, what is that supposed to do?
I don't know.
Like,
it's like trivial. It's like one of those things that are just trivial and I don't know. It's just a bit obvious.
Yeah, I mean, imagine this. Like, oh, just one of these days we just decided just not to eat each other. That the humans just didn't want to eat each other. Just someone decided someday, and then we just spread that rule around. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Does identifying that now like somehow like make it permissible or something? Is that the implication here, or what the fuck? Like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sorry.
An exercise.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
By the way, E.T., we've all seen the movie E.T.
E.T., though. Here we go.
It's from the 80s. You got to go back in the archives for it. E.T. was conceived as a plant, not as an animal. And that's why you remember E.T. could come up to plants and touch its finger, and the plant would come back to life. It had sort of power over plant life because it was actually conceived as a plant. And and I know that because I had a conversation with Steven Spielberg about it. That's as he originally conceived that character.
If I visited another planet and found what appeared to be humans who couldn't move, who were being decapitated and slaughtered and eaten by sentient plants, then I would likely be horrified. I mean, I've evolved to empathize with beings who look like me. But I think if the situation is truly analogous to your situation, that you're hypothetical, then I would be mistaken in thinking that these humanoid creatures were sentient. So while the sentient plants in your hypothetical would likely be terrified if they saw what we were doing to plants on our planet, I think crucially they would be mistaken if they were to think that, like them, the plants on our planet were sentient beings who cared what were happening to them. Because as far as we know, the plants on our planet care about getting cut down or kicked to the same extent as a rock cares about being kicked down the street. There's nothing it is like to be them. And of course the same can't be said for the chickens, pigs, cows, and other farmed animals who are being tortured on planet.
Okay, bars.
Good response. Good response.
He's spitting. All right, first time he's actually spitting bars. All right, let's go.
For trivial reasons.
I've not used the word sentient this entire time. So, if you want to talk about sentient?
Okay, that's why that John guy's. Okay, I see.
This bitch, bro. He literally just said there were sentient planets. Sorry. I am sorry. I'm like flustered a little bit. He literally said sentient plants from a different. Or am I mistaken? Did I get that wrong?
I can go to it.
Oh, you can look at the transcript, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the word sentient. I'm trying to see. When he actually started the thought experiment. Okay, well, let me remember we're at 21. Okay.
The sentient alien plant.
Oh, that's him. Okay, hold on.
I guess you can start where like he begins the thought experiment.
Right, got me to this. Okay, this is Neil.
Got me to the sentient alien. Okay, plant alien.
Yeah.
And so So do you want to still say something, or should I continue with the sentient plant alien?
Let's go to the sentient.
He said the word sentient like 3
continue with
times.
the sentient plant alien. This man! Oh my god!
All right, now let's go back to him saying I never said sentient, just for the lulz.
Yeah,
I can make a little compilation of this.
Please make a short or something. Oh my god,
that'd be good.
dude.
Plants on our planet. I think crucially they would be mistaken if they were to think that, like them, the plants on our planet were sentient beings who cared what were happening to them. Because as far as we know, the plants on our planet care about getting cut down or kicked to the same extent as a rock cares about being kicked down the street. There's nothing it is like to be them. And of course, the same can't be said for the chickens, pigs, cows, and other farmed animals who are being tortured on planet Earth for trivial reasons.
I've not used the word sentient this entire time. So if you want to talk about sentience, that's another conversation.
Yeah. Well,
Is he just I don't know, is he having like a I don't know what to say.
Oh, that's so good. Like, I think he's just like trying to respond. Like, he's not even listening. He's just doing that thing where you just talk back. You're just saying whatever to optically look good.
But how we'll move on in a second because
this is begun.
This is long as is, but like, how is he saying that he never said sentient? It's just so weird. Like, these are the things that like blow my mind. It's like, bro, not only did you say it, but you said it like fucking 10 times. Like, probably if I really wanted to go back, it's just what is going on in his brain or his memory. Like, does he genuinely think that he has not said the word sentient this entire time? Like, is that a genuine thought, or is he just being like a bullshitter? Like, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's hilarious.
Yeah, very weird. It's like saying, I haven't said the word plant once. It's like, yeah, you have.
You're assuming that the alien...
Well, I said the plants were sentient in that they have thoughts and things. Yes, I did say it.
Oh, so that's his second time saying the word sentient, because the first time he said it was, I never said the word sentient, and now he's using it for the second time, not the 12th time, the second time. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I'm just... nothing. Go ahead.
Okay.
You're assuming that the alien...
Well, I said the plants were sentient in that they have thoughts and things. Yes, I did say it, but not in terms of the
Get wrecked.
Valuing one life over another for that reason. So, my point there is, I think we would all agree, if we agree on the definitions of words, that a mouse is sentient and a tree is not.
Yes.
Okay. We are sentient, so we value the mouse because it shares this feature of life with us. And we value the mouse above the life of the mouse above the life of plants because plants do not share this feature that we value. Okay, let's take it from there. So
my God.
Is that
what? Did he just okay? I mean, this. No, I'm gonna be disappointed at some point. Like that seems. It's like duh. Like it's like yes, that's what it's about. Okay, so now what are you going to? I'm just so scared of where this is gonna go. So.
Yeah, let's see.
That's when it comes to ethical questions, the key perspective to take is, what if it were me? What if I was in that perspective? When it comes to a mouse, if I kick a mouse down the street, it has an interest in not being kicked down the street. The mouse itself cares about whether that's happening. A plant, on the other hand, or a tree, doesn't actually care if it's being chopped down, if it's being kicked. It cares as much as a rock being kicked would matter.
Can you pause? If you cut a tree...
Wow, he said, can you pause instead of interrupting him? That's actually kind of crazy, eh?
Does it not bleed?
Yeah.
Oh, not this, dude.
What did he just say? What?
Yo, he said this in the other videos I responded to. And he also, it's weird because he's saying it just as dramatically as he said it in the other time. Like, does it not bleed?
The problem is like, there's like implications with the word bleed, right? We know that sentient things typically bleed, right? If you harm them, right?
Yeah.
So, and it seems like he's using this like anthropomorphic language for the tree so that we could gain like this sense of like, we could eliminate this sense of indifference for this tree, right? And be like more empathetic for it using this type of language. I think that's what's going on here. And that's like very like, ugh. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Can you pause? If you cut a tree, does it not bleed?
Yeah.
If you cloak a tree, does it not wilt?
Yep.
If you withdraw nutrients from a tree and water,
If you slam a rock on the floor, does it not break?
Yeah.
does it not wither and die?
Yeah.
So you introduce this concept of sentience because the way we've defined it, plant life does not have it. But the plant life definitely does not want to die.
Oh my God.
Ooh, once. You shouldn't have said that, buddy. You fucked up there, right?
Yeah.
When you say the plant doesn't want to die, you're imposing some sort of like intentionality there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and intentionality, that's gonna presuppose some type of preference or a desire or something like that. And I'm pretty sure we know that plants don't have those things because they lack the necessary components to have things like desires,
Yep.
preferences, and wants. What? What?
Yeah, I hope he pushes them on the wants claim, because that's a bit
Oof.
like, yeah, it's a little wacky.
Doesn't want for anything.
If you cut away some of its roots, it's going to try to grow new roots. If you cut away branches, it'll try to grow another branch.
Again.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to try. Look, again, like he's using language that suggests that there's like somebody home there, right?
Yeah.
Trying is like intentional language, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what's happening is he is mixing up like a sort of like reaction to external stimuli with some type of intentionality there.
Yeah, like some kind of intentional state that a sentient being, like,
so
yeah.
If my computer, right, gets like a virus in my
your virus protection thing tries to fight it. It's your
like,
computer's trying to fight the virus.
Yeah, my computer isn't trying to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. There's no intentionality there. There's just like a series of causal. It's just a series of causations that's like leading to that to the virus being eradicated. Right. But there isn't like this like mind that's like attempting to do something.
Yeah.
Right. That has a particular goal in mind. Right. Mm-hmm. And in the same sense that like for the plant, when it's like growing a new limb or something like that, or like or reacting to external stimuli, it's not like it's trying to do something, right? It's just a byproduct of a series of causation.
Yep. He's just using what we can call it like sentient language. Just he's using
he's using normative language, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And normativity usually like the object of like a normativity is usually like some sort of preference, desire, aim, or goal in mind, right? Mm-hmm. And like plants don't have like a goal or aim in their mind because like they don't have
there is no mind. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ugh.
If you cloak one side of it, it will get extra nutrients from one side.
He's just describing intelligence.
Try to feed the part that doesn't. It's got a whole thing going on. It has a circulation system. And so that's how you know, if, like I said, if you cut away at the roots, the very top leaves will wilt. And so there are people say, we have a beating heart, and the tree does not. Maybe another way to think about it is, the tree has circulation, and it doesn't need a beating heart. It's not that it doesn't have one and could have one and should have one. It doesn't have one, doesn't need one. And it still maintains a circulation, and it could live 1,000 years. Well, the biggest of them. So, I'm here defending trees as...
Yeah, he just said that unironically. I'm here defending trees. Astrophysicist of the century. I'm here defending trees. This is my life's work.
Something that I think, and here's my opinion, I think nature cares more about the tree than your mouse.
And he's also doing he's doing what he's doing to plants, to nature itself. He's
but
ascribing
here's the
some
thing.
kind of
He's describing some type of like intentionality there, right?
Yeah.
Like agency or something like that. When he says that like nature cares more about the tree than the mouse, like let's say that we accept that for the sake of discussion, right? Like this is me accepting something that's very ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
So that's not going to turn the moral status of animal agriculture. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Like what's the fucking point of all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like giving me some type of descriptive claim about how nature is doesn't tell me on how we ought to conduct ourselves when it comes to like animals, like in the animal agriculture.
Unless he's just deploying an appeal to nature fallacy on steroids and says we ought to do what nature cares about, even though that's not even, I don't even know how you would demonstrate what nature cares about. But that's, I don't know. Does nature care about like a hurricane going through and fucking massacring like a bunch of animals? Like, So should be like not fight that with like, you know, artificial buildings and such. I don't know. But that's how far I would take this whole like let's do what nature cares to do.
Yeah.
And I'd want to hear an argument that is the opposite of that.
To ask what does nature care about is similar to asking
Imagine making a series of claims and then asking for an argument that's antithetical to that. Like, yo, chill, bro. Chill.
I think it's safe to say that Neil doesn't know what an argument is.
Probably, yeah.
A rock falling down a mountain care about. Nature has no goals or desires. It does not care about anything.
So let me not use the word care, because that implies emotions and things. Let me just say the role of the tree in the biosphere relative to the role.
That's also normative. The role, right? When you say this person's role, right?
Yeah, there's another intentional language.
Some type of standard there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can maybe say function, like what it does.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's all I can really think of. It's not doesn't have like a normative, intentional type of vibe to it.
Yeah, because the tree's role, right, is only going to be with respect to some standard out there. And if other people don't have that standard, right, then they're just not going to be convinced that we ought not chop down these trees or something like that. Because
you don't understand, bro. The role was given by the director, which is nature. So the role of the tree.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So you're right.
That's what you're not understanding.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Of a mouse in the biosphere.
How do we get to mouse? Let me go back.
Relative to the role of a mouse in the biosphere are very different. And I would declare, probably without rebuttal, that the value of the tree in the biosphere to other life forms, because the biosphere is what that is, it's the interplay of life forms, is greater than the value of the mouse to the mouse.
Now, imagine, so this guy says he doesn't give his opinions, right? He just made a value judgment right here, right? And he also said it's like you can't rebuttal it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is highly contestable, right? But the problem is that you're invoking some type of value judgment, right? Some type of evaluated standard, right? And with respect to that standard, that whatever standard he's operating under, the tree is going to be more valuable than the mouse or
he's positing like a set of values, because you can't really say one is more valuable than the other without having the level of value correspond with a particular goal or whatever, which is like where he's invoking his own, I guess, or nature's own goal, which we've already talked about why that's absurd.
Right. And one would say that the thing he just uttered is an opinion.
It is. I would say that. No.
To the biosphere. And
we're not even halfway through, by the way. We're almost halfway through, but not quite.
Oh, shit.
So that doesn't use the word care.
No, I'm not saying that to say stop talking. I'm saying that to say we're going to suffer even more.
The word value I'm using in terms of its role in serving the livelihood of other life forms.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. I think that the tree could have instrumental value that affects more sentient beings compared to the mouse, but I do think that the mouse has this inherent value in that they can suffer. What happens to them matters for their own sake, which can't be said for the tree, in my opinion.
It bleeds when you cut it.
As an animal advocate who's often trying to raise awareness about...
He's ignoring the value system, but it bleeds when you cut it. It's like, okay, but does it have sentience? It's like you're just it's like he's just like imposing his own like sort of like moral system and saying, but it bleeds when you cut it. But it's like, but we care about sentience. Like, what? Come on.
Yeah,
bro.
I don't care about. Imagine if we only cared about things that have blood, and there were sentient beings that had no blood. You know?
Yeah.
About the suffering of farmed animals. I'll often hear meat eaters, saying to me, well, you eat plants, you're a plant murderer. And it often feels like these people aren't being genuine, about their concern for the ethical treatment of plants. But they're more, for want of a better term, trolling to try and piss animal advocates off. Is there a sense in which you're trolling here, or are you being serious?
If you cut it, heal itself. Okay, if you cut it,
he's just straight up asking if he's being a fucking dickhead.
That's great.
Here's the mean version of what Jack just said. He said, "Dude, you're fucking trying to tell me that plants might feel pain. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Are you trolling or what?" That's pretty much what he's saying.
Close the wound.
Let's say Neil is going to be reborn. So after you die, you're going to be reborn. There's a 50% chance that you're reborn as a carrot as they're being peeled, and a 50% chance of you being born as a cow while they're being skinned alive. Which would you be more worried about?
I'd much rather be a peeled carrot. Sure.
Why?
Because I don't hear the carrot screaming. Plus, I'll eat the carrot at the end pretty quickly. Yeah.
What? He's gonna eat himself?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understood that first part, the screaming part, but I didn't.
He's like, yeah, because the carrot doesn't scream. Also, I'll eat the carrot. Does he mean he's gonna kill himself as a carrot? I don't know. It's a little odd.
Oh, of course, by all means.
Yeah,
and
so
the carrot, by the way, grows in one season. Cow lives many years. So I think it's possible. I mean, you just took my example of a tree and turned it into a carrot. I'm not saying all life. I'm not saying all life has the same value as a tree. I'm not saying all plant life has the same value of a tree.
Yeah,
you just took my tree example and turned it into a carrot, which is fine to make your point. But I am not equally valuing all plant life in that example. I only mentioned trees because the vegetarian who saves the mouse.
You say something?
If he has an issue with it, he can just modify the hypothetical such that like it's going to be him being a tree that's about to be cut down, and him being an animal that's going to be like skinned alive or like something, whatever they do in the animal agriculture industry to it, like a cow.
Yeah, and it's also clear that Humane Hancock was just trying to illustrate that Neil has a higher value for sentient life than this life or whatever, or even that he may not even think they're sentient plants. Because like I don't know, I imagine if you asked Neil like, would you rather be it kind of seems incoherent to say, would you rather be a rock? Because I don't know how a rock would even be or something, but like a rock or a plant, like I'd probably just flip a coin, to be honest, under the assumption that both are equally as not sentient, you know?
Yeah, because it's not like anything to be either of them. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be a good question too. But yeah.
Built a home out of trees. They didn't build a home out of carrots. So this is
home out of carrots, though.
So I guess you pivoted my example to carrots, and then you went from a mouse to a.
I don't think he understands the point of the example.
Cow and a tree to a carrot.
We can use tree. It doesn't actually matter for the point I'm making.
Then stick with the tree and the mouse.
Okay, so would you rather be a tree being cut down or a cow being skinned alive?
If I'm a tree that lives 1,000 years and I'm looking at this holistically for the earth, I would say definitely skin the cow.
Oh God, hold on.
Journey.
I have a donation.
Journey.
It's $1,000.
Holy shit.
Journey.
Oh God.
Holy moly.
Hold on, the journey's going. Journey.
James Wade has just donated $1,000. Hope this helps.
Damn,
son. My boy James. Thank you so much, bro. Again. Jesus Christ, you're a legend, dude.
Bro. Damn.
Yeah. Absolutely. God tier. Thank you so much, dude. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't. It's whenever this happens, I'm just sitting here like, okay. You're just God. You're just God sent. Yeah. Holy shit. Thank you so much, dude. You're a legend. You don't know this, but your donations are helping me actually work a little less on the side and work on my channel. So, yeah, seriously, thanks a bunch. Just what the actual fuck, honestly. He said, hope this helps. Yeah, it's going to help. It's going to help a lot. Damn. I guess this is what we get for suffering through this. It was all worth it.
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit more worth it now, yeah.
Yeah. Is he even in the chat? I haven't seen him in the chat at all. Yeah, anyway. Thanks again, dude. You're just... I don't know what to say. I'm going to go cry. Just kidding. Okay. Well, we're gonna get back to this. It's weird. It's like I'm so focused on this conversation, and then this happens, and then I have to like recalibrate my brain back to listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson defend trees. Here, let me go back a bit.
Because
or a cow being skinned alive.
if I'm a tree that lives 1,000 years and I'm looking at this holistically for the earth, I would say definitely skin the cow, because the tree relative to the cow has way more value to the ecosystem by far.
Wait. Okay. So he's answering the question in regard to which one would serve the ecosystem more, right?
Yeah, I think so. He's asking him, which would you rather be?
I would modify the hypothetical and say, let's assume that both contribute to the ecosystem equally. Who would you rather be?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
to account for externalities,
right? Because obviously, what he's trying to get at is who would you rather be, the sentient being or the non-sentient being?
Right. Yeah, because he's trying to appeal to some external factor about like the tree, such that it's more ethical, or it's preferable to skin the cow alive. But let's just say that like there is no externalities, right? Like the only state of affairs that's present is like a tree getting chopped down and a cow getting skinned alive, right? Which one's preferred? That's how I.
Far. Personally, yeah.
But so you have to experience what it's like for the tree or what it's like for the cow. I'm saying you have to choose which one you'd have to go through. Would you rather be what it's like to be a tree being cut down, or experience what it's like for the cow to be skinned?
I don't know, because I'm not a plant, but I'm an animal. In fact, I'm a mammal, just like a cow is. So I would experience a lot of similarity to what I expect the cow to experience in death, right? So I'm not a tree. And by the way, I'm not one of these who say that plants scream when they're cut. I'm not one of these folks. Okay, that's a whole other branch of people who care about plants. So
if you're choosing between the cow being skinned or the tree being cut down, you would save the tree. And I feel like your
argument. Well, hold on. Nature, the value of the tree to nature.
You say something?
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Nature vastly exceeds the value of the cow to nature. Okay, just to make it clear. And by the way, let me remind your viewers, listeners, you turn the mouse into a cow. Okay, just so we know, just so we understand. I'm not saying all animals are equal in this, and I'm not saying all plants are equal in this. I gave a very specific example. It was the vegetarian saving the mouse living in a house made of wood. So you're trying to turn our discussion into things that are points that I don't make, because the points I'm making are very specific. They're not generalizations about everything.
Well,
so we can go animal by animal, plant by plant, and there might be a point where the animal matters as much to the environment as the tree does, right? And then we can ask.
Yeah, if I was Jack, I would try to get him to stop thinking about this from a basis of like value in regard to the biosphere and the environment, but instead, like I said before, hold contribution to the environment constant between both a cow getting skinned alive and a tree getting cut down. Which would you rather? I'm going to say experience, even though I don't even know what it'd mean to experience as a tree. But yeah, which one would you rather be, if you could be the tree life form, or be the
even vegans
cow getting
don't
skinned,
get your weird, stupid,
1 second, another
sense of irony here.
James Wade donates $2. Now I want you to get your finances together and get your channel certified by Charity Navigator. I don't know what is. I don't even know what that means. Charity Navigator. Well, thank you for the $2, James. I'll look into what you mean. Oh, is it just... okay. Make an impact on Charity Navigator, the world's most... Okay, I'll read this after stream. You could also message me about it, James, if you want, on Patreon. Okay, let's go back to this.
Nature, which do you care more about? And nature say, well, this supports these creatures. Like you look at beavers that make a dam that create a this and so there's.
We have to make a distinction, I think, between like instrumental value and inherent or intrinsic value. So we can say that like the tree has higher value overall because of all of the instrumental value that it provides for other living beings.
In nature, yes.
So I'm going to give you a hypothetical to try and deal with that aspect of it, where we say it's like an isolated tree that isn't connected. Maybe it's in my house. It's not connected to the rest of nature, and it's an isolated cow. And we're choosing between skinning the cow or chopping down the isolated tree. So we're dealing just with the intrinsic value, how you value them.
Okay, wait. So you want to change the mouse into a cow? You want to do that for this example? Because my example was not with cows. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
You say something?
I didn't say anything.
I think there's like there's part of Humane Hancock's audio is like sounds like almost distorted at some points. So it sounds sounds like your laptop mic coming in. Yeah.
Just with the intrinsic value.
Yeah.
How you value them.
Okay, wait. So you want to change the mouse into a cow? You want to do that for this example? Because my example was not with cows.
Yeah, because
just
it's
to be
directly analogous.
Yeah, my example was with cows. But we can do it with a mouse.
You didn't say anything. Oh, you did.
No,
you did there.
No, I said something that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, am I tripping balls right now?
It's like, what if I was like talking the whole time, just like?
Yeah, I'd be pretty annoying.
No, no, he's changing it to a cow because it's supposed to be like some type of like thought experiment that's directly analogous to what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. So that's why his name is James or Jack. What's his name?
Yeah, Jack.
That's why Jack's doing that, presumably.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait. So you want to change the mouse into a cow? You want to do that for this example? Because my example was not with cows. Just to be clear.
Yeah, my example was with cows. But we can do it with the mouse. It makes no difference to me.
It makes a difference to me. So we should go to the mouse. Now go on.
So yeah, you're choosing between chopping down the tree and.
Huh? Does that really make a diff? Wait, what? So like, if the thought experiment was set up with a cow instead of a mouse, his answer would change. Like what? That's crazy. It's like, oh, it's a cow. No, I'd rather get skinned. That's fine. Oh, it's a mouse. Oh no, chop down that tree. It's like,
yeah,
that really would change. Like,
skin a mouse or skin a cow, he would choose the tree if it was the mouse.
If it was like whichever one, it doesn't matter. Like it's still very fucking weird and unintuitive.
Yeah, well, I want to know what his reasons are. I feel like if he gives the reason, it's going to be something to do with instrumental value.
Journey.
Yeah. Then he's just not addressing the hypothetical.
Right. Robin Hood donates $2. I'm not Wade, but I hope you won't forget your second best tipper. Oh yes. This is the guy that wanted me to feature his video on the channel. Yeah. When we get to the end of this, I'll put it up. Okay.
Yeah, I'll remind you.
Yeah, I meant to last time, and then my power went out, and there was a whole thing, and I forgot.
Skinning the mouse alive. So we're dealing purely with the how you value each being, not the instrumental effects of how they affect an ecosystem.
Yeah, I don't care how you value anything. I care. You value
Jesus Christ.
However you want, whatever is your own equation. It doesn't matter to me. The only perspective I was offering is how does it matter to nature?
Nature isn't an agent.
If you haven't, maybe there's some insights you can glean from that. And if you have, and you still want to continue as you were, then go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, away from the instrumental effects on the ecosystem, how you value these two different beings, whether you really see the plight of the tree as analogous to the plight of the mouse, or whether you see a key difference between them.
You're asking me, and I'm saying, in this example, I'm a cosmic perspective brought to you as an observer of an ecosystem, of a biosphere, and in that biosphere, the role of the tree is vastly greater than the role of
It's pretty obvious that Jack's trying to get his like moral attitude about this, not just this like weird cosmic perspective which views all things as like is like their function toward the universe functioning, or like nature prospering, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he might. I mean, this might be giving him too much credit.
Journey.
He might.
One second, we got another donation. Sorry. Hunter Toby donates $2. Thank you so much. He said, "How did Humane Hancock get this chat set up? We need Avi, Nick, AOI, or Ruxter to talk to him and just name the trait." Yeah, I don't know. I can message Jack and see how this happened, but let's be honest. Like, that would just be a disaster. Like Neil is like very hard to talk to. If you try to name the trait him, he would say something like, "I'm not giving my opinion about things. I'm just talking objectively about the nature of the universe and the functions of," like, it's just kind of
it's weird. It's like talking about
journey.
Another donation. Sorry.
Journey.
People don't want to hear me speak. I get it.
Every time you talk, I'm gonna say
Journey.
James Wade says, "With whom is Neil arguing?" He's arguing with Humane Hancock. He's a vegan activist who I would say he specializes in like wild animal suffering lately. That's what he talks about a lot. But yeah, I was saying I don't think that name the trait would go well with this motherfucker. He would just say something like what I said. What do you want to say, Ruxter?
No, I was gonna say, just like, imagine like having a conversation about like ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And only talking about like descriptive statements.
Yeah.
That's just because it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with these descriptions? Like, what does this do for me? Right. Like, and he wants to come off as like, look, I'm not giving my opinion. I'm not giving you like my normative like evaluations. I'm just telling you what the facts are. Right.
Imagine the opposite. Like you're trying to talk to him about science or like descriptive things, and you're like, or no, sorry, whatever, and you say something like, and you say something like, "I think murder is bad." I was like, dude, I'm trying to see how tall Mount Everest is, and like you just
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, like it's weird because it's like, what do you? Because again, like I'm gonna say like what we said prior is like, there seems to be implications when you say descriptive stuff like that. It's like the the tree has a bigger role in the ecosystem than the mouse or the whoever, and then it seems like the implication is that like is it wrong? Is it like morally wrong to kill or chop down a tree and versus like the mouse or something like that? Like, what's the implication there? Like, because if you're giving us descriptions, and these descriptions are untethered to like normative claims, right? Then it's just going to be very ambiguous as to why you're making descriptions in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
So like that's what's so frustrating, right? But yeah.
Yeah. No, he is. I feel like because a lot of times when I have like debates with people, I'm generally pretty civil, but I would have I think a serious problem with what he's doing here, obviously, but also just his attitude. It's very, in a way, it reminds me of King Anime, just like Neil version, like very. And he also will never let you like steer the conversation in like a direction you would want. He seems very like controlling of like where it goes, and he stops you before you can like finish your point. It's just a whole bunch of things that I probably wouldn't be able to deal with in a calm way.
I would even go. Sorry, I have one. Sorry, dude. I'd even go as far as to say it's like even if we did run NTT on him, right, and we say like, what's the symmetry breaker between the two, right, that justifies the differential treatment, and then he would say something like let's say he says something like intelligence, right, hypothetically. And you would go, so are you saying that like things that are like have like lesser intelligence, it's okay to like, kill them? And then he responds with like, look, I'm not telling you my opinion, I'm just like describing to you.
Yeah.
That would frustrate you because it's like, I'm asking a very circumspect question about like what is responsible for the differential treatment, and then he gives you some descriptive thing, and then he's like, but I'm not using that as justification. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm just providing you information. Like, that's gonna be so fucking infuriating.
So
It's like, oh, I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you the fact of what my opinion is. That I could see him saying some weird shit like that too.
And that is not an expression of an opinion here. When you add up what a tree does for the atmosphere, giving oxygen into the atmosphere every day of its life. Like I said, you can measure this. It's 15 times the mass of the mouse in O2, in oxygen. Yeah. Its role in the biosphere vastly exceeds that of the mouse. So from that perspective, you should, whether the mouse lives or dies should matter more to you if you carry that perspective than whether the tree lives or dies.
Yeah, but so if you I like how he conditionalized it, kind of saved himself there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if that is your perspective, like if you hold to that evaluative standard, it's going to be the case that you're going to care about the one that has more impact on like the environment or the biosphere or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question would be is like, for your evaluative standard, is it the case that like the amount of impact something has on the environment determines its moral worth? And if that's the case, right, further question would be, if a human had zero impact on the environment or the biosphere, would it be okay to kill that human?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? See where I'm going with that?
Yeah, no, it seems it's weird because it seems like what's guiding his quote normative framework is impact on the environment, though. Like that's his like concept of utility, or impact on the nature or the biosphere or whatever.
So
it's also
right.
But it's also not clear because he keeps saying this isn't my opinion. He's just describing facts, so it's not clear if he is normatively guided by those principles, or he's just doing his whole like this isn't an opinion thing. This is a fact of the impact of a tree on the biosphere. Like there's a lot of like confusion there, Yeah,
because like if he's just saying that like if you have this perspective, right, then you're going to have this sort of like evaluative assessment, right, given in that circumstance.
Yeah.
But that's just going to be like trivially true. Like all I'm hearing is like if you have this perspective, then you have this perspective, right? Because the evaluation is going to be based on the perspective. But the thing is, like Jack wants to assess like his evaluative standard, but it doesn't seem like Neil wants to give that standard away because Jack will be able to scrutinize it. So instead, he's going to give like these sort of like auxiliary positions that he doesn't even have, right? And then like and when Jack tears those down, right, he can just say like, well, that's not my perspective. I just told you if you had that perspective, right?
Right. So, and Jack at that point would be like, dude, I want to know yours. Like none of this if stuff,
And I said, when you cut a tree, it bleeds. It definitely bleeds.
But is that morally relevant?
You want to talk about morals? That morals have the body.
He's been trying to talk about morals this entire time, bro.
Yes. What the fuck?
Is this like physicist brain? Like you can't even like conceive of prescription. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, because it's like
asking that now. Like
he's trying to ask like his like moral evaluation of things, and then he's like, yeah, but a tree bleeds, and it's like, well, is that like, is that considered in the moral calculus? Mm-hmm. No. Why the fuck are you bringing that up then?
Yeah. Very weird.
Anyway, the book addresses things that you might fold into your moral compass, for sure. But I'm not handing anyone their morals.
But why did you just say when you cut a tree it bleeds? It feels like you're trying to make a point that you see as morally relevant.
Okay, then I won't use the word bleed. There's circulating fluid in a tree that oozes out of it when you cut it. I think bleed is a pretty good word for that.
Yeah,
and if you need to bleed, it will die. What would you say?
Implication there. Sorry, I keep talking.
No, you're good.
Like, what's the implication? There's like moral implications there.
Right. It's like, why are you saying this?
Yeah, why are you saying that? If you're just like making some sort of descriptive claim, like then it's just like really weird. Like you're just saying that like for no reason. Like it's just random.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a motivation behind saying that, right?
Yeah, it's like if someone asks you like, hey, do you think it's wrong to like stab people? And they're like, this knife is made of metal. It's like okay.
Okay.
I'm trying
Does
to.
that like is that supposed to? How does that help me determine if whether or not this is right or
Yeah.
wrong?
And it's really weird how he ended up saying, what are we, 34 minutes in? He's like, you want to talk about morals? Like, I don't know, bro. That's got to be trolling or he's just completely, like, it's like part of me wants to think that he's aware that he's doing this and he's just avoiding.
I'm laughing because that's also the title of the video.
Right. You want to talk about, oh yeah, true. That's funny. He should change the title to "I'm defending trees right now."
Because it took him this long. It took him this long to figure out we're talking about morals. Like,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Do you? I know I don't like to get into the mind reading territory, but like, do you really think that he just figured that out, or he's just
No. I think he's just trying to stick to the descriptions, and like sort of like imply and sort of like underhandedly have moral implications without like explicitly saying them. Right. I think that's what he's trying to do, but I can't read minds. So.
Yeah, of course. I really want to know because I'm just very interested, just psychologically with that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm happy with the word bleed. What I'm saying is I don't see why that matters. Why does it matter that the tree bleeds?
I was used because you were talking about because when you cut the mouse bleeds. They both bleed when you cut them.
No, so I don't. It's not like I inherently care about the bleeding of the mouse. What I care about is the experience of the mouse. That like suffering feels bad for the mouse, whereas the tree, as far as we know, is no experience. It is not like anything to be the tree. And I just feel like it's important to acknowledge that.
Sorry, Danny. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Imagine doing this though. It's like, oh yeah, I don't care if Let me think of an example. It's like a brain dead person, right? Let's say they had no family or whatever, right? And then like, I kind of just prick him with a little needle, and he starts to bleed, right? And it's like he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, he's not sentient. There's no one home. He's brain dead. Like all of his like experience is like gone, right?" It's like, "Yeah, but he bleeds." I was like, "Did you just not hear like my standard?" It's like he's not sentient. Yeah, but he bleeds though. It's like he's like completely ignoring what like the standard is.
Yeah, and it's weird that he depicts his saying of they bleed as not some sort of moral implication or like some sort of moral communication, like
because typically when we think of something as bleeding, we think that like there's some type of pain, right? Some type of injury, right? Where the thing that received that injury that's bleeding can like reflect on that like injury and like have like this negative aversion to it as if there's like some sort of agency there, right?
Yeah.
But that's very biased of you as a human being with a brain and a beating heart. You've taken the tree of life, which is an extraordinarily richly diverse expression of ways of being alive, and you've taken things that are closest to you, did a carve out on that tree of life and said, this has a moral code higher than I'm going to protect and preserve this. I don't care that you do that. I just want you to be self-aware that is what you're doing. Right. Just be aware that all the rest of life on Earth, the biomass that greatly outweighs the animal of plant life, it greatly outweighs the mass of animal life. That you have value judged it by whatever is your code of ethics, of morality, and say you're closer to me. It's like the people who want to protect dolphins. Dolphins have big brains. They're surely sentient. So I don't want to kill a dolphin, but I'll kill a tuna fish and eat the tuna fish. Well, they're both animals trying to survive in the ocean. They're both trying to survive. They both don't want to die. But you've got to carve out because of your own perspective, which is as a human on one skinny branch in the tree of life. Coming from the outside, there's countless branches in the tree of life, countless genera in the tree of life. Did I say that word right? Genera? The family of genuses. Genera, I think. Okay, value it. Go ahead. Just the way our sentient plant aliens valued their life. And they passed judgment on you. I might even expect that.
If you're using our standard, they would be mistaken in a passing judgment because that judgment's going to be based on sentience.
Yep. Also, what he's saying here is just like, all he's saying is what we kind of trivially went over before, which is like, we have a a normative system, and it's based on a particular set of values. And, one of those things we value is like sentience and well-being and preventing suffering. And so we operate off of that, and we value sentient beings, and then we don't value non-sentient beings. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess he seems to be implying some kind of like there might be something about plants that have something valuable that we won't ever entertain because we are not plants or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like something morally valuable. But it's like, I can't, as a sentient being, really think of another reason to value a plant besides either one, it being sentient, or it having an effect on sentient life. Because axiomatically we value sentience and well-being and suffering, whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Like, is this something that Neil says when there's like a serial killer on the loose and people are complaining and saying like, oh, we got to find him. The serial killer is so messed up. And he's like, well, just know that you are taking the tree of life and just looking at this one branch, human life, and valuing them and wanting them to not be the victim of a serial killer, when there's this whole other array of life that you're not valuing. You don't care about plants being the victim of a serial killer. Okay. Like I don't know, like, does he say the same thing about people that care about humans? It's just
in the same way that you care about being killed by this serial killer, you should apply that standard to when you step on a roach inside your own home.
And the journey has just begun.
And you see there's other instances of your life where you don't care about the life in question because of the circumstance. And now the circumstance has come onto you, and the serial killer doesn't care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why vegans are dumb.
Right. There's also rocks. There's other forms of matter that you are choosing to not value because of your being a sentient life. Okay. And rocks actually, I don't know. I can't really describe why you should care about them, but I just wanted to let you know that you're not valuing them based off of some code that you have. It's like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Like, look, toilets have a huge effect on the biosphere and on other creatures around them. But yet, you don't think twice when you shit in your toilet. Think about that.
You have a code that stops you from caring about shit dropping in your toilet. Like, really think about that. Wow. Whoa. You know that actual shit is also a thing, right? And you don't care about it morally. And you've made the decision because you are a human and you're not shit. So you can't really empathize with the shit.
And yet shit
know that.
has a huge impact on our biosphere.
It's like, do you care about shit? Well, do I care about shit? Well, I'll tell you, it helps the biosphere. No, I'm asking you, like, do you morally care about shit? I don't have opinions about shit.
I'm just telling you the facts, right? And the fact is, shit has a huge impact on the biosphere.
Oh, so you want to talk about morals? Oh, okay.
He's actually kind of hilarious in a way.
Yeah. Now I think we figured out his shtick now.
Yeah.
Now we know how to view this stuff. God.
Oh shit.
For any life form. But all I'm saying is, whatever you do, just make sure you see the rest of this and then land wherever you do.
Why did you decide to make the alien plant life sentient in your thought experiment?
Because I wanted to highlight the interesting fact that some of the tastiest vegetarian food you can buy are the reproductive organs and the baby versions of those life forms. I don't think that's commonly reflected upon in that way.
I feel like the reason he made them sentient... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. It's just like... It's not the... Like, again, he's using language that's like trying to like anthropomorphize plants or something like that. But it's like... It's missing... The thing is, it's like the experience. They don't even have experience. And that's going to be the... I said that with a weird...
Experience.
experience. I said the weird accent. They don't have that. They don't have that particular experience that we value. So, performing a thought experiment, right, where you're not analogizing analogizing the property that we care about, the thought experiment is just going to be irrelevant, right? Because you're not gauging the evaluative standard, right, that the vegans have, right, which is like some sentience allocation.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the reasons he had to make the plants sentient is to posit in the hypothetical that they have an actual attitude about anything happening, period. You know, like he couldn't have said these plants are horrified without invoking that they're sentient, given how we define sentience, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
that's that was something I was going to bring up too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like, even if you didn't say they weren't sentient, let's say you remember that part where he's like, I never mentioned sentience, whatever. Mm-hmm. Let's say he didn't, right? Well, we assume that in order for you to be like horrified by something, you need to have some type of experience, and that's what we would attribute sentience to be.
Right.
And so that was an exercise and that has analogy to animal life, right? People eat younger animals because the meat is more tender than older animals. People eat lamb instead of sheep. You can eat sheep, it's just not as tender. People eat calves instead of, for veal. We even have whole words for the young version of it. So I wanted to show that there's a corresponding action and vocabulary to those who eat meat as well as those who eat plants. That was the point of that exercise.
Yeah. It just seems like the alien plants being sentient means that they can be horrified by what's happening and be emotionally distressed. Whereas if they weren't sentient, you couldn't have had that. There's kind of no one to feel sorry for, which seems to be the morally relevant distinction, along with how I value things, which is caring about the experience of others.
So yeah, I guess from a cosmic perspective, the tree of life,
bro, shut up,
is this remarkable thing that we have here on Earth, and the tree of life.
Yeah, we have toilets on the tree of life.
I don't think the tree of life makes a moral distinction about anything on it. It has to do with what role does it play in the biosphere, and how valued is it relative to the.
Yeah, why would the tree of life be able to make a moral distinction? The tree of life's not even the tree of life's not even like a real thing, by the way. Like we call it it's like a concept. It's
like it's supposed to be like a metaphor for like nature.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when he even says the tree of life, he should just be saying nature, I guess, right? Nature doesn't make moral distinctions. Like, yeah, we know. This is what Jack was trying to explain this to you earlier in the conversation when he said, like, nature doesn't care for these things. Like, you can't just say that.
You eat plant dicks though. That's like.
It's also weird. Who said you eat plant dicks?
I said because he was appealing to the reproductive organ, the sexual reproductive.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, you eat plant dicks though. Like that's his argument.
Plant testicles. But isn't it kind of interesting how now he's saying that nature can't make moral distinctions, when earlier Jack was trying to explain to him that he was making the error when he said that nature cares more about this than that, or nature doesn't care about this, giving it some kind of capacity to care.
Yeah.
Life of other things. So, plus, of course, nature, like you said earlier in the conversation, nature is, you say, we have this glorification of nature, like it's this beautiful place, when it is evil. I mean, it will kill you. The fact that more than 95% of all species of life that has ever existed is now extinct at the hand of nature is evidence that while nature loves life, it has no particular.
It also doesn't do that. Okay.
Particular investment in one species relative to another.
That well-being.
Has to do all it can.
What the fuck? What'd you say?
Just investment. Like it's just like something that's like nature is just like, all right, like humans they're my shit. So like I'm gonna make sure humans are all right, and hopefully I'll get some return in.
Yeah.
Like because nature's like doing that, right?
Yeah, totally. Nature's making the decision
to survive, and if it can't because it got crowded out by another species in the in the predator-prey example, or it got shadowed out by another plant whose leaves prevented sunlight, you will go out. And nature won't care about you. You're just another lost species. Because you lost at the hands of other life forms that were better at surviving than you were. And that's so the code of the wild, as it is.
I want to figure out a way to get nature to care about me.
Natural selection.
I think it was Nick Bostrom who said, had Mother Nature been a real parent, she'd be in jail for child abuse.
Well, I would think of it the other way. Had it been a real parent, no species would go extinct. You see, that's another way. That very same fact. They'd actually be nurturing each species. Yes.
Have you ever wondered why we have this tendency to idealize and romanticize nature as we do?
I don't think we always did. If you go back 19th century and earlier,
I think he's given up on the vegan topic now. It looks like, because he realizes it's like just not. He won't budge, and now he's trying to talk about nature being romanticized. Which I don't blame him, honestly.
We cared about nature in the sense that there are these life forms we've never seen, and before photography, every scientist would go on the road with an artist if they were not themselves an artist, and they'd come back, and nature books and travel books were some of the most heavily sought after publications of the day, the late 1700s and throughout the 1800s. And they were part and parcel with the colonistic ways of Europe, right? They would go see what was exotic to them, trees and animals and people, and so they'd come back with their books of the natives, of the plants, of the flowers, the birds, especially, as we know from the Audubon series. So I don't know that at the time people said, "Oh, nature is beautiful and balanced." No, I don't think that. I think that's a more modern concept, based on my read and what I could glean from these books. There aren't people saying, "Let me go back to nature," right? They're saying, "No, I want civilization where I have a."
There's some people saying that, the ancestral types, but I don't think they'd ever take it to the actual extreme.
Food supply chain, and I don't have to go hunt for my food and possibly not get it tomorrow. All right. I think people were really liking civilization going into the 20th century. And so when there was there's always been vegetarians out there, for religious reasons more than for other reasons that today we might cite with regarding health or the environment. But it seems to me to be more modern. That's all. I could be wrong, but I just based on my sense of things, that's what it feels like. Teddy Roosevelt and another, which president was it? Just after him, decided to declare parks as a national preserve. Okay, so that was 100 some years ago in the United States. To take nature and say, this is really beautiful, let's protect it in this way. And I don't know that Europe felt the same way about parks that early. Because the United States has all this land and all of this, so there's a movement that's basically 100 years old to preserve and protect nature.
Yeah, I also wonder if there's some kind of arbitrariness to what we call nature and what isn't nature, where someone could say that human-built skyscrapers are natural because we are a species who evolved.
Yeah, I'm in that camp. To me, cities are nature because that's what we build. The same way a beaver dam is nature. That's what the beaver built. All right.
Well, some people will hold to a notion of nature that's like independent of like human influence or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, under his concept of it, everything is natural then.
Yeah, everything would be like there. So like, it wouldn't make sense to classify. It would be redundant to classify something as natural because everything would be natural. Like,
right.
So that's what
Yeah, interesting.
I think. And yes, we step on the toes of other life forms. So does a dam. We like to praise the dam. Oh, it creates an environment for other life. Before the beaver got there, it was a completely different ecosystem. All right. And so, we're going to praise the beaver now because the beaver is on the ring of engineering schools as a symbol of their engineering. So, and a point I make in the book, in the chapter on body and mind, is it? Or I don't think it's in the meat eaters and vegetarians. I just comment the people who want to protect some animals and not others. That's weird to me as a scientist and one who carries a cosmic perspective. All right. There's, save the whatever.
Oh no.
It depends on the reason as to why they want to save particular animals, because that reason can be missing from other animals. Like it could be some type of trait that they have, some type of characteristic, right? That delineates them from other animals that don't have it. So then there won't be like this type of inconsistency thing.
Yeah, he
right?
frames it as though it's just some sort of speciesist distinction, like, oh, I just don't want to help this animal because I don't want to help this animal, or it's not this other animal. When in reality, like, the reason I would want to protect one animal and not another is because perhaps, let's say a tiger is currently trying to kill me. I don't really have an interest in protecting that tiger, right? Or, a diseased, like ticks or something like that, or little bugs that carry disease, etc. Like, compared to a cow, that isn't going to be a threat to, like, my life. So, yeah, I don't think it shouldn't be that confusing to him as a scientist why people value some animals over another. Now it is a bit like annoying or whatever if it's solely based on aesthetics or something. Like, that's, obvious problems with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like vegans in particular, if you ask us why we protect some and not others, we'll give you reasons that aren't like just speciesist or something like that. And I think if he's going to go off of his thing he said in his other videos, he's probably about to say that these people that do this are speciesist. Because he claimed that, not caring about ticks and mosquitoes is speciesist, even though, like, there's reasons to not care about them outside of, like, oh, you're not my species.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure vegans aren't appealing to species. There's like, there are just particular traits that are absent from some species that we care about. And it might be like, maybe a certain degree of sentience, right? Like, pigs might have a certain degree of sentience, and mosquitoes lack that degree of sentience, and maybe that's why there's differential treatment there. So it's just different species have differing levels of sentience, and sentience is the thing that we care about. So it's not going to be the case that it's species per se,
right?
But sentience. So sorry.
Pick something that people have wanted to save, okay? And is there a corresponding movement to save?
He's going to say ticks. He's going to say ticks.
Save the leeches.
Or leeches, ticks.
Which is save the ticks.
There
Suppose the
called it.
Leeches or the ticks were on the brink of extinction. Would there be a movement among the nature lovers to say, save the ticks? I don't think so. If the rats were going to go extinct, would someone say, save the rats? And have marches with placards?
Yeah, maybe.
So we are very particular about the animals we like.
I'd like to.
I wonder why.
We're very particular about the animals we like. For example, we don't like the ones that are a threat to our existence, but we do like the ones that aren't. Wow.
It's one thought experiment I'd love to give you, another alien thought experiment, where we imagine, and it's one I gave to my mother actually when I was a young boy. If you imagine super intelligent aliens who come down to Earth, and the difference in intelligence between us and the aliens is perhaps similar to the difference between Neil deGrasse Tyson and a chicken.
And that would be just a human and a chicken. Okay, fine.
Aliens, super intelligent aliens, come down and they see us. They can see that we suffer, we have relationships with each other, but we're also very tasty to them. So they decide to stick us in cages, in large sheds, thousands of us, take our babies away, and slaughter and eat us. Would this be analogous to what we're doing to the chickens, the cows and pigs who are less intelligent than us?
I think it's entirely analogous.
Well, it's certainly been a very interesting and engaging conversation.
And he didn't even resist that.
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting him to do some dishonest bullshit, but like he said that is entirely analogous.
It'd be funny if he was like, I'm not here to give my opinion on that.
So if he says it's entirely analogous, I want to know what's his moral status of that particular state.
You can't get that, bro. That's not gonna happen.
Ah, come on.
You're reaching for the stars. If you're reaching for the cosmos without, sorry, bro.
And thanks for your points and your perspectives on this. And
thanks for your points and your perspectives that I interrupted 90% of the time when you were halfway through them. I really appreciated half listening to what you had to say. Thank you, dude.
And I know you probably have a huge following that all resonates with what you say and the ideas. Like I said, I'm not here to change anybody. I was giving as many points of inconsistency among meat eaters as I was with speciesist vegetarians who were picking this part of the tree of life versus another part. So it's just...
Sorry, what's the contradiction?
Yeah, he's invoking Yeah.
Yeah.
He also said speciesism, and he said inconsistencies. So I want evidence of both. Please, Neil. You know what? Maybe he would answer that because he's here to talk about descriptive things. So, you know what I mean? That's kind of, maybe he would answer that.
Just think about it and come back to it. If you don't want to think about it, I guess that's okay too. But don't claim you have a deeply reasoned perspective.
So I really enjoy in your writing this tendency you have to zoom out.
What the fuck? It's like it might actually be the case that it's a deeply reasoned perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could also be the case that you are misinformed about like the vegan position or most vegans' position on this, because when you appeal to species as some sort of like inconsistent criterion, right? It just seems to be the case that you're just not talking about what like vegans care about, right? And then you're just operating under misinformation, right? Or you're deliberately strawmanning, which if that's the case, shame on you, man. Shame on you.
Yeah, and I've said this before about how like you can be an advocate for like say African Americans or something, or like gay people, but then you can also recognize that there's certain people that are in these groups that are, let's say there's some that are like, let's say there's like a serial killer who's like gay for some reason, some weird shit like that. Like you would probably not want to give them the same rights as all the other gay people that aren't serial killers, but you're not being like homophobic. Like you have a very specific reason that has nothing to do with the fact that they're in this group or not. You know what I'm saying? Like they're a serial killer. Like, so, analogize that with like disease carrying mosquitoes or ticks or whatever, these animals that would that are going to harm you. And you don't have a species this like reason to discriminate or whatever.
Right.
From the human perspective and see things from a different point of view. But I wonder if something that's sometimes missing from your thinking here is a perspective taking that's very important when it comes to ethical questions. And that's asking ourselves, what if it were me? This seems to be the important perspective to take when it comes to morality. And when we do this kind of perspective taking, asking ourselves, what if it were me? It becomes very obvious why vegans and vegetarians are drawing the line at plant life, because as far as we know, it doesn't feel like anything to be a plant, to be a tree. Even if they bleed, that doesn't mean that they're experiencing something. And of course, the same cannot be said for the chickens, pigs, cows, and fish who are
I don't think plants want to die either, by the way, just my point.
Do you think plants consciously want anything?
It's not about consciousness, it's about value to the environment. Like I said, I'm not making this about consciousness.
Why are you making it about value to the environment?
What we think is consciousness in other animals. That's the species. That's this branch of the tree of life. They have consciousness. There's this other branch where they have photosynthesis. There's another branch where they have mushrooms that do what they do. All right, and so everybody's got their thing. So, all right.
Yeah, but does photosynthesis generate like subjective experience or?
Yeah. Did he just say like, I don't think plants want to die either? Did he just say that?
I think it was that or animals. I'll be honest. What's that?
No, I was gonna say yeah, I agree that I don't think plants want to die. It's the case that I don't think they want anything. Actually, I don't think they want any kind of experience because there is no wanting.
Right.
So, yeah,
they just don't want.
I don't.
But do you not see it as morally relevant that not everything actually cares about what happens to it? So that the mushroom doesn't care if you kick it down the street, whereas a dog certainly would.
I'm not in a position to judge that. I don't believe I can judge what a tree's. I've never been a tree. Okay, so for you to say, I've never been a tree either, but I know it doesn't feel pain and it doesn't care that it's cut down. That's kind of audacious of you. Now, by the way, I mostly agree with you. Okay,
that's audacious of you.
But no, in the sense that probably trees don't feel pain in the way animals feel pain. That was never a point of my discussion. It was just the relevance to nature, to the biosphere. That's all.
Yeah.
By the way, if really smart aliens came, it would be in our interest to convince them that they need us alive. We have to find some way to serve them and have them to eat other animals and not us.
But would that be okay? Would that be okay? Like we have. Like, why is the onus on us to convince them that not to kill us and eat us? Right? Why don't we just say, look, we're fucking sentient beings. We have capacities of pain, pleasure, and at least a range of types of experiences. Like that alone is sufficient enough to not kill and eat us.
Right.
Like
not just we're of use to you.
Yeah, and I think the reason why he's putting this sort of like, I don't know if it's like a stipulation or he's saying that like, this is what we have to do in order to not be consumed, is because he's placing like a near and nigh impossible task for animals to do, right? So that until these animals do this, then it's not okay to do that to them. Just in the same way as like, until it's okay for us, until we convince them, to the aliens, that it's not okay to kill us, then they can do it.
Yeah, that might be what he's at, or maybe even like subconsciously, like he didn't even realize that's why he said what he said about us having to convince them. I don't know.
Bring in the vegetarians. Oh, these leaves really tasty compared to my flesh.
Exactly. We'll try to convince them that there's nothing morally wrong with eating the plants, but there is with us.
Exactly.
That's so good.
Exactly. So I too. Well, thanks for checking in on me. You called me out of the ether to show up on your show, and I was delighted to do so. And always good to have an intelligent conversation, as we just did.
Hey guys, you've now reached the end of the